How do you get started as a professional artist? That sounds like a good topic for a live discussion. Greetings, people of the internet. I'm Scott with Surfworks Art Labs. Welcome, mad creators, to the underground laboratory where we fight aliens, zombies, and other imminent threats to humanity. And today we're doing another live chat. So we've got a topic. This is something that I get all the time. How do you get started as a professional artist? And for me, that was a long time ago, so I'm going to try to dive back into my memory and kind of recap sort of my journey, how everything got started with me. But that's a very difficult question to ask because everyone has their own story. And there's sort of this saying in comics, or this idea in comics, that once a door is open, somebody bars that door and boards it up and everything, so the next person can't get through that same door. So in a lot of ways, it's different for everyone. But I'm also interested if you are a professional artist, or even if you're on your way to kind of sustaining yourself as an artist, or bringing in regular income as an artist. If you have done any work, where you've been paid for it or whatever, how did that come about? Was there a kind of a break there? Is it friends and family? Does that lead to other things? I'm just curious for you people that are making some money off of the artwork or making your living off of it, how did you go about it? Because like I said, everyone's story is very different. So I'm going to tell you my story. I want to hear your stories in the live chat, and while we do that, we're going to work on another RPG character. So yeah, let's get into that right now. Okay, hey everyone. So back with another live stream. I feel like it's been a while, but I think it's every other week I do it. Every week that I'm not hosting the Artcasters on my channel, I try to put up a live stream. So I see some people in the chat. Hello to everyone in the chat. We got Tim, we got Cameron, we got Salazar Nation, Art by Galen, Kaylee Brown. How are you guys doing? So yeah, today we're going to do another, as usual, we're going to do another character sketch. This again is from a fantasy RPG that my son has designed and he's testing out. So this is sort of a turtle character. I'll get into a little more about that, but I wanted to get into the topic today. What we're going to talk about is kind of like, everyone wants to know how you get started and everything. And like I mentioned in the intro, everyone kind of has their own way to get started, and even if you hear stories of how other people got started, it doesn't necessarily mean you can follow that same path. Sometimes there's a lot of luck in it. There's skill involved, but there's also luck. There's so many different factors. But I thought I would just kind of talk about how I got started, and when I say my first big break, that's a little misleading because, I mean, there wasn't like one big thing that was like, oh, I made it, I got this thing, but I figured I would just talk about like how I got my first actual real client job. And because previous to that I had been doing, you do stuff for friends or whatever like that. And then, and it kind of went on from there. So I was just going to tell my story. Hey, we got Comments Legend in the chat. So, and I want you guys to chime in too, let me know if you are, if you're just getting started, this might be good information to you, just kind of, it's always good to hear how other people got started because, like I said, it's not always the same for everyone, but you can see that it can kind of happen for you too. You just kind of got to work on it, and because it's just like weird little things, and this leads to one thing, and that'll lead to something else. But I want you guys to chime in and kind of let me know if you are a working professional, how you guys got started. So for me, I was in high school, and I had been doing, I always drew ever since I can remember, and I like I said, I did stuff for friends and stuff in high school, but at the time, I was working at a grocery store as a courtesy clerk, and basically what that is, I don't know if that term is still used or whatever, but it's where you bag groceries and you go out and get the carts and everything like that. So, and I had been doing that for a while I was in high school. And sometimes that position, I told you you bag groceries and get carts, but basically it's kind of the bottom rung. Anything they needed done, they would rope you in and say, hey, can you do this or whatever. Sometimes if you had a truck or whatever, they'd have you go to different stores and pick stuff up, which we always like to do because you got paid a little extra with the mileage and stuff like that, and you get away from the store and you get the drive. So just certain things like that. But somewhere along the line, they asked me to do some signs. They needed some signs for like sales and things like that. And so, they give you like some of that bright orange fluorescent paper and some Sharpies and stuff, and just go make some signs. So I figure, well, I'm gonna take my time doing these signs because I'd much rather be drawing signs than have to go back out and get carts and all that kind of stuff. So basically, there's no office or anything we could draw. You just go to a little table in the where the deli is, where they've got a little table where people can sit. And I just sat there and started making these signs. And I kind of whatever the product was, I would design the logo to look like the product and everything, like the actual logo and everything, and started posting these. And they liked it, and it was getting attention and everything. So they kept having me do more of these things. And of course, all the other people that were in the same position that I was, they were always, at this point, I think I'd been working there for a while. So part of it was maybe a seniority thing, but part of it was like, oh, why does he get to do this? And we got to go out and we got to buy groceries and get carts and all this stuff. So anytime I got the opportunity to do that, I would. And, I got a little better at it and everything. Nothing to the level if you have, I don't know if you guys have like Trader Joe's where they've got these awesome letters and they're doing these really cool displays. It was nothing like that. It were just these little signs. And a lot of times it was for, one of the things I was doing was a lot of the potato chips and things like that. And, all that kind of stuff, and soda and whatever, they had. And basically the way grocery stores work is they've got the distributor, I guess they're distributors, I don't know, like people from like Coca-Cola or Frito-Lay or whatever, they'd come in and they'd stock the shelves. They stock their own stuff and do all that. And I guess Frito-Lay took notice of some of the signs that I was doing, and they were like, man, these are really good. And then so they actually contacted me and they wanted to know if I could do more of this kind of stuff for them. So that was kind of my first real actual client was Frito-Lay. So I would go there and I design stuff, and then they would send me to different stores and stuff and create these little promotional things. And it got to the point where this was right around the time where Sun Chips was being introduced. So that give you an idea how old I am if you remember that. But and it's funny because that's one of these chips and things come and go, but those are actually still around. So when they were first premiering those Sun Chips, they wanted to, obviously they wanted to do a big promotion and everything. So they had, I don't know the logistics of how they do this or how they get the space or what they pay for, but they actually had a really decent amount of space to do this promotion right when you were walking into this one particular grocery store. And they actually brought in a speedboat. And the idea was they wanted to create a sort of a mascot character that would be parasailing off of the back of this speedboat, this actual speedboat that they had in there. And of course, around the speedboat, they've got all the chips and all that stuff in a big giant display. And then we set up the parasail and all that kind of stuff. But they wanted me to design a character. So it was, and this was just like a regional thing. This wasn't a character that they ended up using for anything on packaging or anything like that. But it was pretty cliche. It was a sun with with sunglasses on and everything like that. But at that point, I didn't really know, what kind of medium to use. And later on, I would get into doing more of these displays where I built things out of foam and everything like that. But this was all basically cut out of just poster board. I took 2 sheets of big poster board and then cut out the shape of the sun, and then that was the front and back, and then I had to kind of create the sides. I kind of bent the things around and did all that kind of stuff. And then we hoisted this guy up, and it was a big display. So and then I just started doing stuff from there while I was still in high school, and then gradually I graduated and I started taking art classes and everything. So I guess you could say that was sort of my big break. That was the first actual paying job from an actual legitimate client that I did. So and again, like I'm talking about, this is all it wasn't like I was even looking for this. This was just something like I'd rather be, making these signs than going out and picking up carts in the Arizona sun, which can get up to like, 115, 120 or something. So I'm like, I want to stay in here and do this. So that's all that was, and then it just kind of led to other things. So to kind of keep that in mind when whatever you're doing. I mean, just kind of put, even if it's, just put all you got into something, and then who knows what might happen from there. But let me go back sort of to the chat. So we got Comics Legend. I worked in the art field for several years, got laid off, and it's been hard getting jobs again in the same field for 3 years. The job listings require so many things now. Yeah, and the thing is, it's the job listings. The problem is, I mean, everyone is going for those same jobs that are listed. And I've kind of had weird, success and failure just answering ads. I mean, sometimes you kind of go a little outside the box and sometimes it's just a matter of approaching people that may have a need, and they may not even know that they have a need for your services and things like that. And then sometimes you can get lucky and get found, like the whole Frito-Lay thing. But the problem is with the ads is everyone's applying for those same ads, and honestly, most of the people that post those ads, they don't even really know what they're looking for. They're usually people that are in human resources and everything. So they don't really know all the terms. So they'll throw we need everything. We need somebody who can do all this different stuff. And chances are they don't need all that stuff. They'll put in there that they need you to have a college degree, and I can tell you from experience, and this isn't, that's a whole other topic we can talk about, whether art school or whatever, but I can tell you from experience, as long as your portfolio is good, that's not even usually the art degree or whatever the education isn't relevant, other than, I mean, you kind of need to take art classes or learn some way to get to the point where your portfolio is good enough. But so yeah, I mean, I'm not saying not to apply to different things, and I've had and it's weird, I've gone the whole route when looking for full-time stuff and everything, and I've actually, believe it or not, I got one of my better jobs that I had was working for a game design company, and I actually that was actually a job that was posted in Craigslist of all places, and typically you wouldn't think Craigslist is the best place to look for something, but you never know. You kind of got to try everything. So you can try sending your stuff out, and then you got to think a little outside the box with stuff like that. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it is not easy, and that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this, because part of it is just persistence, and I think the reason why, because I've been doing this so long that I've been able to build up enough, different things in my portfolio. So no matter, it's funny because right now I'm hoping that I can continue just kind of work for myself and do my own thing. But if I ever had to go back and look for another art day job, it really doesn't matter what it is for me, because I've done a little bit of everything. I can pull from that. I can go. I've got folders of, oh, you need somebody who can do animation. I go pull from my animation folders. Oh, you need somebody who can do character design. Oh, I can pull from that, or somebody who can design maps. I've done that, or stamps, or all this different stuff. So that, I think, is what helps me, because I've just been doing it so long and I've got enough experience. But it's kind of hard to get that experience. So, but even if you're doing that stuff on your own. But let me go back to the chat here. Let's see. We got art by Galen. Let's see. I've done tons of stuff as a professional artist. Tattooed for 13 years. Did etching on tombstones. Oh, that's interesting. Airbrushed vehicles and did murals. I also did a board game illustration, but now I'm focusing on comics, which was the reason I got into art to begin with. So yeah, me too. I mean, I love comics. Unfortunately, I think for me, and I'm sure Galen, for you too, it's kind of Well, I don't know. I mean, some people still want to go kind of the Marvel and DC route, but there's so many people that are having a lot of success with like crowdfunding, and I know Galen's artwork, and his is of that level where, you know, obviously he can do really good doing that. So, you know, a lot of it's building your skill, but once you're at that level or whatever, I think there is opportunity for people who do in their own comics through like crowdfunding and things like that. We're definitely seeing that, but traditionally, you know, it's you know, comics are really difficult to make money in, and I've talked about this before, where most of the professional comic book work that I've done hasn't been for like a Marvel or DC or a big publisher, because you know, unless, you know, if you're at a certain level where they come to you because they really like what you're doing and you can kind of play by your own rules. Like I watched I don't know if you guys watched the, or, you know, the YouTube channel, Cartoon Kayfabe, like Ed Piskor, who's did like Hip Hop Family Tree, he's at a level where he can work above, you know, the standard page rates for Marvel or DC. But for me, some of the work that I do, I mean, just if I was just going to go in on as kind of journeyman wages or page rates for comic books, the amount of time they take and the amount of time they pay, it doesn't make sense for me to do that. But so most of the comic book work that I did was for, like, you know, either if an advertising agency is putting together a comic book that's a tie-in to a product they have, those pay a lot better because you're getting agency rates as opposed to Marvel or you know, DC page rates. Or sometimes I've done stuff that are like PSA as public service, where they're doing like a nonprofit or whatever will do something in schools where they're trying to, you know, push, you know, whatever, you know, whether it's health or something like that, and they'll want a comic book that goes along with that. And again, those pay a little better. So that's kind of the work. It's not as glamorous, but, you know, I mean, but I do my own cool stuff by myself. So anyway, so that's kind of the route that I'm taking. And that's another good point, is that I think when I say you got to kind of think outside the box, because most people don't even know that those kind of comic book style jobs exist. Everyone's looking towards like the big two and everything. That's what everyone, or like if you're an animator, you want to work for Disney or DreamWorks. But there's other like places, you know, all these like, you know, whether it's content creators or just people that are, you know, just producing, you know, I don't know, whatever for the internet. I mean, they need animation for that kind of stuff. So there's work out there, but you kind of have to look for it, and you have to look in places that most people don't know, where you know, the competition's not as fierce and it's a little easier to get into. And again, it may not be as glamorous, but, you know, but it beats like not doing that kind of stuff at all. And then it can afford you the time to work on the stuff you really like to do on your own time. So anyway, I guess I'll kind of go on from there. I guess let me kind of go into this character while we're doing some sketching. So this, obviously you can tell this is sort of like a tortoise style character. I'm going to kind of bring up this stuff from my son's game. So this is called, the name of this race of creatures from his game is called the Tortakame, and I'm just going to read a little bit. It says, a race of nomadic turtle people who wander the land searching for purpose. Whether that purpose is a lord to serve or a worthy challenger is wholly decided by the individual. Some even enjoy the journey for journey's sake. And then it kind of goes into the culture. The Tortakame wander the eastern steeps of the organic continent, often carrying all their belongings on their back. They wander the land searching for experiences that will give their lives fulfillment. This is a nomadic lifestyle. It is a dangerous one, with the beasts that roam from the uninhabited lands, so they arm themselves with expertly crafted weapons, using techniques that turn even the lowest quality materials into a fine blade. Due to necessity, many of their kind have become proficient in the art of combat and reconnaissance. So, and I can go on, it goes on from there, but just to give you a little idea. So, into the, you know, the world of character design. So that's kind of when you go in, you kind of read these descriptions, and it starts to form a vision in your head, and then and then so that's why I kind of decided, well, you know, obviously he's carrying his stuff on his back, they're nomadic, so basically everything that they have, that they own, is probably going to be on their person. So that's kind of what generated this this look that I'm developing for that. And you'll see as we go on. And I'm working in Clip Studio Paint. I'm doing the digital. If you're new to this stream, just to let you know, so everything here, this is all pre-recorded. Obviously not me talking to you guys. I'm live, but I'm just kind of, you know, I want to be able to pay attention to the chat and everything. It's almost like what kind of gave me the idea to do it this way is that YouTube has this thing called premieres, where you can have a pre-recorded video and push it out as a premiere, and people can comment live, and you can go in the chat and comment. But I'm a little better just talking to people than typing. I'm a very slow typist and everything, so I figured I'd do it like this. I do a live stream, I pre-record the drawing, and that way I could you know, read the chat and just talk to you guys rather than sit there and type and everything while I'm doing that. So, and plus if I was doing that, if it was live, you'd probably hear me typing and stuff as well. So anyway, so that's what we're doing here, and you can kind of follow along with that. But I'll get a little more into the topic. I'll go on from there. Let me get a drink while I'm reading some of the chat here. Okay, so Art by Galen says, yeah, today it's easier than ever, than it's ever been to get your stuff out there via crowdfunding. It's unlikely you'll get rich, but you can build a brand little by little. Yeah, and really, that's that. If I had to give any advice to anyone, it's just, you got to have patience. This is a long game. I mean, every once in a while, somebody will just, you know, go viral or something, but that's usually not the case. You just got to stay with it. Like, I don't know how many of you guys watch Marshall Lee's channel, Marsh Makes Art, but he is like killing it right now. I mean, his stuff, I mean, he's getting more views per videos than me. He's getting more followers. As far as his trajectory and everything. So, but the thing is, he's had his channel for a while, and he would post and then he'd stop posting and he'd kind of drop off and come back. And I remember talking to him, and I had mentioned, you know, it's kind of the consistency of just, you got to keep putting it out, you know, constant content. Like, and I've been doing this, and my channel isn't huge in comparison to a lot of like art YouTubers and stuff, but I'm constantly posting at least once a week, usually twice a week. And I'd like to do more, and I will be doing more in the future as I move, because I'm really inspired by what Marshall's doing. But like, he's got a day job, and he is just crushing it. I mean, he's started this, I don't know what changed, but he just started like constantly, like really getting into the YouTube, and now his channel is really, it's starting to take off. So, but it's all persistence, and you never know when things are going to start to take off like that. So you just got to keep at it, and then, you know, and I can't tell you it will happen. I mean, chances are, if you are constantly doing it, you're sticking to it, you got to see progression, and you know, and that's what it's all about. And you can't. I mean, I have seen people that have done really well on, you know, with their crowdfunding and stuff like that, but you never know. I mean, it's you just got to stick with it. That's all. That's the only advice I can give you. And you gotta also get other people on board, because not everyone understands this whole journey as an artist and everything, and they don't see the kind of the light at the end of the tunnel, if there is one, or some light coming through, or anything that kind of help push you to whatever that next goal is or whatever. But you know, it's difficult, and it can be hard. So, and you do have to be a little bit realistic too. I mean, obviously, you know, you've got to, you know, find a way to sustain yourself while you're on this journey, whether that's through a day job, or whether it's just, you know, if you're getting a little bit of work and just cutting back on the other stuff you do. But again, you got to get other people on board so they know kind of what you're doing and everything, because it can be difficult for other people that don't really understand sort of this lifestyle and everything like that. So let me kind of go back to the chat here. We got Callie Brown. Let's see. I kept switching to see if there were any differences in the shapes. Looked identical to the sketch, so I was pondering if, oops, the chat's moving, if this was like a second copy or what. Pre-recording makes much more sense, yeah. And then, so my son is in the chat, the one that's kind of creating this game. He says, I'm looking forward to seeing this when it's in full color. Yeah, you'll see it towards the end of this this sketch, or if you saw the preview image. So, yeah, okay, so Callie Brown. This sort of advice is always hard, and I have to take to heart. Recently, I just put stuff out there consistently, and over time something will build. Maybe not quickly or into something grand, but still. Yeah, I keep going back to this, but it's just a long game. You got to be in it for the long haul, and you got to keep putting stuff out. And it's frustrating because sometimes you put stuff out there and no one pays attention, but in some ways, I don't know what level you're at, but in some ways, if you're kind of just getting started, in some ways it's good that you don't have a lot of eyes on your stuff, because you're still a little raw, you're still learning and everything. But but that's not a reason not to start sharing your stuff, because as your skills and everything grow, your audience will continue to grow with you. And kind of going back to Marshall, I mean, I think that's why his channel is so attractive to people, why people are starting to take notice, and he's getting so many views and everything, and starting to get all these subscribers, because I think they're looking at Marshall's journey and they're seeing something in themselves, because they're kind of following along. Because he's not, I mean, I know he's working on some anthologies and stuff, but he's not, like I said, he's got his day job and he's doing his passion stuff on the side, but he's not doing everything like in the way that a professional artist, I mean, I don't know how much of his art he's actually getting paid for, if any, but you watch that and you see his journey, and that's really intriguing. So there's no reason, even if you don't have to be a professional artist, or, it doesn't matter what level you're on, still put your stuff out there, and you're gonna get people that are kind of in the same boat, or can kind of understand kind of what you're going through, the level that you're at right now. So yeah, don't hold back. Just start putting your stuff out there. It'll grow as your audience grows, and that's sort of my advice when it comes to that. So I guess I'll kind of go back. So when we left off, we were talking about sort of my big break and everything, and kind of where it went on from there. I did start going to art school. I didn't go. It wasn't. I started taking community college courses in art, and at that time I didn't really know. I didn't know the differences between like graphic design and fine art and illustration. I just thought art, And once I started taking classes and everything, then I started to realize, because I went into, because I was taking, I was doing life drawing and color theory and more fine art type classes, which is important. I'm not saying that that's definitely important. I mean, obviously, especially if you want to be a comic book artist, you need to know life drawing and all that stuff. But this whole course was kind of moving towards more of a fine art aesthetic, a fine art curriculum. And I remember I was going into one of my painting classes, and I had brought in this portfolio that I made, and it was pretty rough at the time. But I had done all these like logo designs and things like that, and not really knowing what really graphic design was, other than I know I like product design. I like to see stuff out there, and I like logos. And it's kind of like when you're in high school and everything, or junior high, and you're putting all the band logos on your book covers and all that kind of stuff like that. So I just got into lettering and logo stuff. So I started designing logos for different products and things like that. And it was the painting teacher that said, it looks like you're really interested in doing graphic design, maybe more than fine art. He says you might benefit from this other course at this other school, this other community college, who had sort of a commercial art course. So, and this was a little further away, but yeah, so I kind of transferred over there and got into that course, and that's when I really started to understand design and illustration, and they had some comic book courses there and everything. But basically, I would just take, I wasn't necessarily going for a degree at the time, because I always struggled with the academics and stuff. My thing was I just like to draw and stuff. So my goal was just to take every single art class I could, and that's kind of what I started doing. And I was doing I started doing a lot of marker renderings and stuff, and I did this one of this. It was a Honda, I think a Honda Civic or whatever, but it was like kind of like a full photorealistic, rendering that I did of this car, all in marker. And it was, it's funny because I don't even, I'm sure I could probably still do that, but I haven't really done any photorealistic stuff in a while. But it really, I mean, if you stood back, it looked like a photograph of the car, and I did it all with marker. And at one point there was this architectural firm, and they would have people that come into the college, and they would, people that were doing it for a living, then to give tips and things. This is obviously before YouTube and everything. And then they would have scouts, or they would have job postings. And there was an architectural firm that kind of had an in-house, graphic design department. And back then, this is before computer-aided drafting or any kind of, computers were that readily available. So most, when you did a concept drawing for, like, say, a building or like a shopping center or something like that, you had to kind of draw all that out in perspective, and they do these full color marker renderings. And so this firm was looking for somebody who did marker rendering, and at that time I was kind of the best in the class at doing that. So that was sort of my first actual day job, working for this architectural firm. Just doing, and that's where I learned perspective. We had these big perspective grids that we had. Most of it was 2-point perspective when you're kind of laying out. Some of it was 1 point, but most of it was 2-point perspective. We did a lot of, like, food courts and stuff in the malls, but we had some really cool clients. Like, back then there was this thing called the Warner Brothers Studio Store, which had all the Warner Brothers stuff from DC Comics to Looney Tunes to Mad Magazine, and they had all the Looney Tunes characters, and they had these giant elaborate displays, and it was just super fun because you just got to draw Looney Tunes and put them in these crazy poses and do all this cool stuff. So that was sort of my first actual art job. And I think I worked there for about a year and a half, got laid off, and then again, that's the constant thing throughout my career as an artist, and I'm sure a lot of people. I don't think I've ever worked as a staff artist at any place for longer than 3 years, and there's only been like a couple jobs that I left. I mean, so I was pretty loyal to the places I was working at. But that's why I'm a little bit bitter, because, and sometimes it's not, sometimes a lot of these companies were startups and they went under, sometimes for whatever reason, but they just don't, it's just that I kind of fell into that myth of this job security working for a company, and I'm like, it took me a while to realize, but it's like, there really is no job security, so why kind of rely on, because I could only do the best that I could at these places. But it wasn't always up to me the way a company would run, a company was run, or if I didn't have any say in that. I didn't have any say other than, like I said, I could do the best work I could do, and hopefully that helps the company become successful. But ultimately, it was kind of out of my hands. So if a company doesn't do well and they have to lay people off, I don't really have any control over that. Or at least if I'm working for myself, it's my responsibility, and I have to, if I'm not doing well, that's my own fault, and I've got to do something to change that. So anyway, I kind of got on a little tangent there. But let me kind of head back to the chat here. Let's see. So we've got Christopher Miller. Any advice on how to protect and move my art prints? I was thinking about a comic bin or smaller ones, but I have a problem with storing the bigger ones, like the 11 by 14 and 16 by 20. Okay, so here is my advice. Let me know in the chat, Christopher, if you have IKEA where you're at. Because I'm assuming they still make these. And if you go back, I think I actually show them. If you go on my channel and you watch the studio tour that I have, there's a part where I go in my closet and I kind of show how I store my prints. These aren't gonna be big enough for 16 by 20, but my prints are 18 by, I think they're 18. No, 12 by 18. My prints are 12 by 18, and they're perfect for this, or like you said, 11 by 17, 11 by 14. But IKEA has these, they're made for storing shoes, and it's like this box. it's like a plastic box, and you can kind of stack them. They usually sell them in groups in packages of 3. And you kind of have to look for them. I'm trying to, it's probably in the storage area. I don't actually know what they're called. And I remember looking for them once, and I tried to mention what they were to the people working there. They didn't know what I was talking about, but I did find them. But they kind of open up forward. I don't know how to explain this without you actually seeing it, but it's like this big plastic box, and it kind of folds down almost like I don't want to say like a filing cabinet. I don't know, like it just kind of pulls down, and again, this is hard to explain. But anyway, they're made for storing shoes, so you can stack them. You can actually hang them on your walls. You pull them down, and then you can pull your shoes out and push it back up. But they're perfect for storing like art prints and everything. That's how I store mine. If you're talking about shipping and stuff like that, depending on how you do it, I've got like heavy cardboard that I ship. If I'm doing something small enough that can be shipped flat, like it's like I was working last time I was working at, they ordered a bunch of these art prints, and they had all this real thick cardboard, and I just took that stuff and I cut it up. But a friend of mine, Jeff Lafferty, like if you want to ship artwork, if you want to roll it, a tip is to get and this could get some alerts from the post office because it might look like a pipe bomb, but if you get like the big giant, like the big kind of, it's usually black, that black PVC, it's larger. You can put it in, obviously there's mailing tubes and everything like that, but if you're really concerned of your work getting damaged, because the post office has been known to damage mailing tubes, but if you put them in that plastic thing, and then cap the ends of it and everything, nothing is going to break that thing. You'd have to run that over the truck. So Christopher says not shipping, just storing. So I also have flat files, which, I mean, those are probably the best way to store stuff. They are super expensive. And here, just to kind of, I'm going to segue, I'm going to move around a little bit again. But, and when I was starting off, when I was, because I had always, I just kind of jumped around from like full-time job to working part-time while doing my art on the side. And in the beginning, there was a pretty good stretch where I was doing part-time construction while I was doing my, my work, my illustration stuff, trying to kind of get that off the ground, my freelance stuff. And when we did that, we would go into places and you'd have to gut this stuff to either lay tile or whatever we were doing. And there was this one place that just had this giant, they're just trying to get rid of this stuff, but these giant flat files. So I'm like, I'm gonna get this, put this thing in my truck and take it. And so I've got these old flat files, and they can be expensive, but I don't know, it seems like with like Craigslist and sometimes people just want to get rid of stuff. Like if I had to, I'm kind of like, for me, I live in Arizona where it's super hot, so I'm not going to stand out all day in a garage sale, even if I can make some money. It's just not worth it to me. So if I had to get rid of that, if I needed to make space, I like whoever wants to take this thing. So sometimes you can find people that are, willing to just part with their stuff for little or no money, even though this stuff can fetch a hefty price. I mean, these flat files can be super, super pricey. But flat files are great, and you can store huge things. You can also, if you're crafty enough, you can build them. But I mean, I just kind of, sometimes companies go out of business, especially now, and this is obviously unfortunate, but with so many companies out there, that are kind of like big box stores and all that stuff, that are places like that are going out of business. When they do, sometimes they've got all these displays and things that they need to get rid of. So sometimes you can find things like that, and just kind of just pay attention as you're going around and just thinking what you can store stuff in. Like when I was doing comics, I'm still doing comics. When I was doing comic book conventions, obviously the underground layer, you've seen that whole setup, and you might be able to see some of this stuff, but my first displays, my first kind of booth setups were kind of that kind of echoed, like, actually a lot of the stuff in the underground layer is taken from my Comic Con setup, my original one. And then originally I realized that this is all getting very confusing, so I wanted to just focus on the art and not have all these other like pipes and tubes and all that kind of stuff. But when I started off, that's what I was doing. And I had found these at Walmart. They don't have them anymore, unfortunately, but they were these plastic toy boxes. They were like these treasure chests. And the top of the treasure chest kind of, I just kind of had, it had like these bolts where it looked like there was a band that was holding this wooden plastic. It was obviously plastic, but it was made to look like like a pirate treasure. But the top kind of looked almost like, I don't know, it looked like something that if you painted it like a different color and put some faux finish on it, it looked like something you would see more industrial, like almost like pipes and things like that. So I painted those things, and it kind of served double duty, because I would use the top as sort of part of my display, but then I would carry my art prints inside the thing. So, there's tons of stuff. I mean, if you just go to like a Walmart or whatever, there's all kinds of like Rubbermaid things. Like I've got a lot of my artwork I just store under my bed. There's one in the spare bedroom where I store stuff, and then under my other bed, and it's just those kind of Rubbermaid flat things, and I store a lot of stuff in there too. And I show that off in the studio tour as well. So yeah, just kind of keep a look. There's so many things you can use to store stuff, and like again, if you're a little handy, you can kind of figure out how to build some cool stuff too. Like my whole desk here up in the command center, I built this whole thing myself, and a lot of it was just and I'm not this incredible woodworker or anything, but I can do a little bit here and there. But most of it was just going and buying like the stuff you would buy for like kitchen cabinets. So you'd buy the drawers and you buy the cabinets, and then you build around that. You get two kind of cabinets, that you would see in a kitchen, and then you just put a piece of wood atop, and then you can, like back in the days, they used to take cinder blocks and they would just put it like some what do you call plywood over the top, and that would be a desk or whatever. So it's a little more than that, but sometimes you can build stuff like that too. But let me get back to the chat here. We got Kyla in the chat. Let's see. Did you find that taking art classes helped you a lot in the graphic design world? And if so, what type of classes? My professor has talked to me more about taking art classes, but I'm hesitant. Yeah, I mean, and I don't know exactly, Kayla, where you want to go, what road you want to go down, if you want to go into graphic design or if it's more communication or whatever. But this is, and this can be argued, and this is my personal, I guess, personal belief. But as far as the actual, and it depends. There are areas where you definitely need a degree, especially if you want to go into education or whatever. If you want to teach. The degree is not always what gets you the work, but you do need to learn those skills. And honestly, art school is a great place to learn those skills, but it can be pricey, so you just got to be careful. I just hate to see people go into debt, because if you're diligent enough and you can do that kind of stuff on your own, there's no reason why you couldn't learn all this stuff from taking other classes that may be a little less expensive, like online courses, or you could learn a lot of stuff like what I'm doing on YouTube and everything, but you have to do a lot of digging, because it's not structured like a curriculum. So that's the one thing that's really good about art classes. And I will tell you this, that I benefited tremendously from art classes. But when I was going to like junior college, it was a lot cheaper. It wasn't, I mean, I could afford to pay for that myself without going into debt. And especially, and like university, I mean, that's almost out of the question unless you're, I mean, if you are independently wealthy, or you come from, or if you have scholarships or whatever, I don't know. Everyone's got their own position, but my thing is, I don't want people to go into debt, especially in a career like art, where you could theoretically figure out how to do some of this stuff on your own without that debt. Because I've been like at the game company I was working at, I worked alongside people that were making the same exact money, doing the same exact job, who had, tremendous amount of debt and went to like fancy art schools but they didn't get paid any more than me. They weren't doing anything other than the same stuff, the things that I was doing. So it kind of, a lot of it all boils down to your portfolio. But again, it's not like you can just not learn. You got to learn how this stuff. So there's a number of different ways to learn. Art school is definitely a way to learn that. And I benefited tremendously from. I was lucky enough, even though I didn't go to like this prestigious art school. The school that I did go to, I just had great instructors, and they kind of borrowed a lot of their curriculum from like Art Center, which is this. If you're not familiar with Art Center, I mean, it's like one of the top art colleges there is. It's in Pasadena. You have to kind of. They don't take everyone. You have to kind of get in there. And there's one of the few art schools that if you go there, chances are you will probably be able to make a living as an artist. Most of the people that go to art school, it's very prestigious for one, and a lot of the people that went to Art Center are able to make a living doing artwork. But again, it's super, super expensive. But anyway, I was lucky enough just to go to sort of community college. And we just had a great course. And unfortunately, where I'm at, eventually they got rid of the course. That college doesn't offer any kind of commercial art course anymore. So unfortunately, it doesn't exist. So I can't really recommend it. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of on you whether kind of what area you want to go into. But those art classes, nothing is gonna hurt you. I mean, it's all. Anytime you're drawing, anytime you're practicing, anytime if that's what you want to do, no matter how you do it, you just have to be drawing, whether that's in more a structured environment like school or on your own or whatever. You just need to build the experience, and you need to improve your skills, and there's a number of ways to do that. So hopefully that answered your question. Let's see. Let me go. Let's see. Okay, so I'm kind of going further what Kayla's talking about, because I can't really sketch or draw well. I depend on Adobe programs to make my artwork. Yeah, and that's something, because again, Adobe, it's not a lot. There's a lot of, sometimes a lot of people like, right now, you see me drawing with this brush pen, and I get so many people wanting to know what brush pen that is. And that is I think it's a Kiritake Fude pen. But there's a number of those. But anyway, it's a great pen, and I love it. But it's not magic. You can't go out and buy this pen, and you're not going to be able to draw like the way I draw. You've got to learn how to draw that way. And I can't pick up, somebody who's a much better artist than me, whatever tools they're using, and just pick up those tools and do what they can with it. And software is the same way. You need the software, and it's going to help you, but you need to kind of build on those basics first, because it's really all Adobe Photoshop is a tool. It's not, at least not yet. It's not going to create things for you, and when it does, then we're all in trouble. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely, if you feel like you need to improve on your sketching, I would set aside 30 minutes a day or something like that, just to work in your sketchbook. Maybe take some life drawing classes if they're being offered. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna do nothing but help you. You gotta have to build the fundamentals, and not rely so much on just the software. I mean, the software is obviously gonna help you out. I mean, you saw me using earlier in the stream. You saw me using Clip Studio Pro, and that thing is. I put aside doing digital sketching for the longest time, and now it's hard. I hesitate to say this, but it's hard for me to go back to doing traditional sketching, which I love doing. But I can be so much more productive. You still see me doing the right now. You see me working with the markers and inking. Traditionally, but even lately I've been doing my next live stream. I might try to ink it all digitally. So I mean, these are great tools, and they can help your progress, but you need to have kind of that foundation to build off of. Let's see. All right, we'll go on. Let's see. Comics Legend. If there are a few, you can put them in your portfolio. Okay, I'm sorry. I should read these before I start reading them out loud, because they're responding to what other people are talking about. Let's see. All right. Okay, Salazar Art Nation. I have a Starlight storage box that's made for documents. Stairlight, sorry. I use it to make as a makeshift light box. I used to store my paper. Yeah, those are great. Like I would do that too, where I get a glass table and I put that on. But I've seen that where you make a light box out of the. And those are also good because they don't let all the light in. Like if you're just going over a glass table, you need something to kind of diffuse the light. But usually those plastics, they've got the plastic cases. They're got a little more of a little bit of an opaque film to them or whatever, so it doesn't let too much light in. Just enough so you can do your sketching and everything. Sorry, just getting a drink there. All right, so yeah, if you guys have any other questions, like for me, or again, one of the things we're talking about here is just you know, our big breaks. If you guys are working, you know, or if you've done anything, it doesn't, I mean, even if it's doing something for a friend or anything like that, that's going to help you because you're going to at least get an idea of what it's like working for somebody else and kind of what's involved in that and everything. So it doesn't have to be like a big break, but if you guys have done anything, you know, where people are actually, you know, valuing your work enough to give you some money for it and everything, you know, let me know about that in the chat. Let's see. So I'll go back to the drawing. So right now, so here I'll draw your attention to these markers that I'm using right now. I just got them. These are the Hoo-Hoo brush tip markers, and I have a review of those where I compare them to Copics that I will be putting out. It might be next week or the following week. I'm not sure. But these things, oh man, actually, if I can remember, I will retroactively put a link in the description of this video. And I'm also using some Spectrum Noir, which you're seeing me using right now. But these Hoo-Hoo brush tip, I mean, I've had a Hoo-Hoo before I reviewed them, but they just came out with these Hoo-Hoos with the brush tip, and they are like super cheap. I mean, I couldn't, as far as an entry-level brush tip marker, you know, you're not gonna, I mean, I think it was a set of, was it a set of 40 markers for about $38, so less than $1 a marker, and compared to Copics, which are $7 or $8 a marker, these are pretty nice, and I'm hoping they'll put out more colors. But like I said, I'll do a whole review on those. But yeah, these are great. So yeah, I just got those, did a review. I'm really enjoying them, and I'll kind of keep you updated as I go on, because sometimes as you work more, sometimes the markers will fray or whatever. So I have to do more with them before I kind of can give a, you know, a total kind of long-term review on how they hold up and everything. But for the price, I don't, you know, even if they start to fray, I mean, they're you know, I'm gonna get my money's worth out of them. So anyway, but yeah, these are pretty cool markers, and yeah, I'm kind of digging where this guy's going. Let's see. Okay, so Cali Brown. Okay. Oh, and I guess kind of more on topic. It's more of a tiny break, but I've had my comic running for 6 months. That's awesome. And as of about 2 weeks ago, I posted to get my comic added to 2 of those comic lists. Yeah, that is awesome. That's awesome. Let's see. And my views and readers went up 10 times. That's awesome. And that's really good. I mean, that's the thing. It's just little incremental successes along the way is what you're looking for. And kind of, you know, be proud of those successes. And as you go, you know, they'll just, I mean, you know, that's the whole thing with this journey with YouTube. I mean, I've been on YouTube for a while, and it just gradually, you know, I start getting more people watching, more people interested. You guys in the chat, the community starts to build, and it started from nothing. It started from these old videos where I was doing like some of my earliest videos. I mean, they're horrendous to watch, but they're still on there if you go back far enough. But I was showing how to do how I built my original comic convention booth. And how I kind of constructed that out of foam and everything. And I had an old iPhone 4. It only had the one camera. It wasn't like the it wasn't the front-facing camera, so I couldn't see what I looked like, so I wasn't on camera. I was holding this thing, and it was so shaky. It's just, I mean, the whole thing is just shaking all over the place, and I'm kind of holding the camera and talking at the same time, and I'm not on in the beginning. You know, I was too kind of shy to be on camera, and then I just gradually, the more you do it, you get a little bolder and a little bolder, and now it's like no big thing. I just get on here and talk and do all this stuff, and yeah, it's kind of crazy how all that works, but it's, you know, and that kind of goes for like you introverts like myself. Like I know, you know, people say, oh man, I just couldn't do YouTube. I couldn't get on there and talk. But, you know, you could start off like I did. Like I see, you know, I'll watch these YouTube videos where people, they don't even talk, and maybe it could be because there's a language barrier or whatever, but they'll use like the Google, I don't know, it's your Google Translate or whatever, where you type in things and it'll speak it out for you. And I've watched these tutorials where it's basically, you know, it kind of sounds like kind of that like Stephen Hawking kind of robotic voice, just giving you the narration on how to do something. But, you know, they're good at editing things and they're good at teaching, so they found a way to kind of make YouTube work for them. So, you know, just start out. If you don't want to be on camera, don't do that. If you don't want to talk, don't just do a speed video. Put a few of those up there. But gradually, you know, I've seen there's other channels that I watch where you don't see. Never saw them on channel, and gradually they've been doing it long enough, and then they'll pop up on the channel and they'll introduce something, and then you start to see them more. And that's kind of the way it was with me. So, you know, you just kind of got to get started putting your stuff out there. You know, don't be worried about people taking your ideas. Don't be too self-conscious. I mean, just start putting your stuff out there and you'll get better at it and everything. And that's, I think nowadays though, I think the best way to kind of make it as an artist is to you really use social media and become sort of a brand, have people interested in the work that you're doing, and you gotta, you know, whether it's on Instagram or YouTube, I mean, I think that's what you have to do, and it takes a long time. I've been doing YouTube for over 6, maybe 7 years or whatever, and I'm not a huge YouTuber or anything like that. So but I love doing it, so I'm gonna keep doing it, and it'll grow at its own pace and everything. So, but if you're hesitant to start, then you're kind of doing yourself a disservice, because you've got to start somewhere. Like even like with me, you know, not too long ago, I launched a mailing list, and I should have done that way sooner. I waited way too long for that. I should have, you know. My Patreon isn't really, there's a Patreon up there, but it's nothing yet. I just kind of reserved it because they were changing some things with their, you know, percentages and stuff, and they said if you're gonna get in on what they have now, you gotta join. So I signed up for Patreon. There's one there, but that's something I really need to do too. So, and that's one of my next goals, is to actually do a Patreon where I'm actually have stuff on there where I can offer people and create something cool for the community and everything who's wanting to support me on there. But you know, these are things that I should have done a long time ago and I put aside, and I didn't do myself any kind of, you know, favors by putting that stuff off. So yeah, start getting your stuff out there no matter what level you're at, because like I mentioned before, your audience will grow with you as you start putting your artwork out there. And even if you don't think it's of professional quality, or if it's, you know, it doesn't matter, because there's no matter who you are, there's going to be people that are behind you in their journey, and they're going to be able to look up to you. Because sometimes it's hard to, if I was to look at somebody like a James Gurney, or you know, I'm just trying to think of somebody just amazing, you know, some amazing comic book artist that's doing something that I could never even think of achieving. It's really frustrating. So it's hard to look at. Sometimes it's hard to. I mean, it's hard to look at that and imagine how you can get to that level. So sometimes, and I don't want to say set your sights low or anything like that, but sometimes it's better to look at some people that are just, you know, a little bit ahead of where you are. So you can. It's almost like a stepping stone. Like, if I can get to where this person's at, then once I'm there, then I can look at the next goal. So no matter where you are in your journey, there's going to be somebody that's behind you and that can learn from you. And if you're just starting out, if you're a student or whatever, you're better to teach than probably I am, because you're like, a lot of the way that I got to become a professional artist, that stuff isn't even relevant anymore because I'm so old. I mean, you couldn't take my path because a lot of those avenues don't even exist anymore. So if you are younger, if you're in the thick of this right now, you have a lot more that you can teach other younger people than I could, because you kind of know if you're just like a year ahead of somebody else, you can kind of show them the ropes. So no matter where you are, don't be afraid to start showing your work and just be open and honest. Say, I don't do this professionally. I'm trying to. This is my journey, and if you want to come along with me on that journey, then hop aboard. So let me get back to the chat. We got some stuff going on in here because we're getting close to finishing up. But let's see. So Abe says, nice drawing. Thanks, Abe. Let's see. Christopher Miller says, I have a festival coming up to do some vending. This is my first festival and I can't decide between giving the customers the prints there or mailing them. Any suggestions? Oh, that's a good question. I think most people would, obviously you can give them the option, but I think most people probably would want to take the work home with them while they're there. And if not, definitely give them the option. Like I was listening, if you guys listen to the, what's the name of the podcast? I can't remember. Comics Lab. Great podcast. They're more web cartoonists, but they were talking about the show that I did. And it was on a beach. And of course on the beach, people, they're walking around in their swim trunks and stuff, and they probably don't even have pockets or anything. So one, they probably don't have money to spend, and two, they don't have anywhere to carry stuff. So depending on where it is, it might be more convenient for them to mail it to them. But I would probably just kind of give them that option, I think. Let's see. Okay, so Callie says, I'm at 30 pages so far. Wow, man, you're pretty far along. That's awesome. That's, my each issue of my comic isn't even 30 pages. So, and I've only got 4 issues now. So it sounds like you're killing it. Let's see. And then we got generally, they're just talking about how long it takes to do a page. And that's kind of, again, that's different for pretty much everyone as far as how long it takes. And you do get faster as you go. So, but we are getting a little close to wrapping this up. So if you guys have any last minute questions, be sure to let me know. And I don't know how long I'll be able to, how much time we have to go into in-depth discussions, because like I mentioned before, the drawing is pre-recorded, so when that kind of runs out, I just kind of cut it short. But I'm live and I'm able to answer questions, so let's see. I'm just reading this comment. I think it's in response to something else, but let's see. I have the Stan Lee How to Draw, this is Salazar Art Nation. I have the Stan Lee How to Draw Comics Tomorrow Way, which I have too. I've even done a sort of a semi-review or just a kind of a read-through on that on my channel. It's one of my bigger videos. But it says, and also a Bruce Splitt's Big Book of Cartooning. A lot of those ideas on how to get started are outdated, but I still like them. Yeah. I've got right by me, I have something called the Marvel Tryout Book. And it is a big 11 by 17 book with actual comic book pages in it. And I was just reading through it. And of course, they're talking about how to color comics. This is before computers. They're talking about using Doc Martin dyes and just all this stuff that just is not even relevant anymore. But it's kind of a cool time capsule to look at to see how things were done. And I'm getting ready. It's still a little ways off, but I'm in the middle of producing basically a course that's going to be free on YouTube. Basically, how to create comics from start to finish. Every episode will be a different part of making comics, everything from just coming up with your ideas all the way to the final publishing. And I'll start rolling those out. But yeah, it's a lot. With that, I want to try to get in some of the things, like when we get into lettering, even though a lot of lettering is done digitally. Of course, I'll get into that, but I do want to kind of just educate people on where everything came from. like what were some of the original lettering tools people used, because I think if you understand that, it can kind of help you better understand, you know, how to do things the modern way. You know, especially terminology, because a lot of the terminology people use for certain things come from, like, when you're talking about lettering, when you're talking about letting, which is the space in between, you know, words, or, you know, letters and words and everything. Well, kerning is a space between letters. Letting is a space in between, I think, sentences, or like when the letters are stacked on top of each other. Anyway, but letting that goes all the way back to when they were actually, you know, doing the presses, and they're putting the letters down, and in between they had to put they were made of lead, and this lead thing to kind of space out the letters. And so that's where that's from. Same thing with, like, when you go to save something, you have this little picture of a disc. We don't use those discs anymore, but people know intuitively that that's what that is. All right, so here we've got one more character, this sort of turtle fantasy RPG game style character. I'm getting a lot of these kind of in, you know, there's still tons to go based on, you know, these characters from this game that my son is working on, but it feels like I'm starting to get more and more of them. So gradually, as I do these, we're filling out this world and everything. So anyway, it's fun to work on these type of characters. I have fun. I especially have fun with these discussions with you guys live. So yeah, and it's good to know how you guys got started and everything, and hopefully that's going to help other people that are looking to sort of start earning money off of their artwork and everything like that. So I think this is really, you know, it's good to have these discussions and everything, and even if you're not quite there yet, hopefully you can glean something from that. But, you know, the one thing I also want to know is I definitely want to keep doing more of these live streams. So I want to know what you guys want to talk about. What are the things that you want me to kind of cover on these live streams that you want to talk to me about? So just let me know those in the comment sections, and I will see you guys later. That is all. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like what you saw and you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. Also, you can follow me at Circworks on social media. Do you like making comics? Then go to Circworks.com and pick up the Comic Maker Starter Kit. It's packed full of fonts, brushes, templates, and more. And best of all,